today's video, I'm going to be walking through how to make a matchday poster. Just for my few next videos, I will have no face cam as my room is being renovated. Just I'm adding some things into my room. So without further ado, let's jump into it. As you can see, I've got a composition of Memphis Depay, Kondogbia and Antoine Griezmann. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by getting rid of our group layer that we already had. That was just so I could center it. What we'll do is we'll group our two back layers together, our back images, and we'll put our flow onto 20%. With our black brush, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn down and use this kind of fading effect, like so, just to fade our images in, and we'll do our normal circling fade effect. We'll go in really close just to make sure that none of the images are being kept on the bottom. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize Kondogbia and also resize Memphis Depay just in the background, and then bring Griezmann down just that little bit more. Then I'll just bring in a little bit more of his shirt. But what we don't want is that Kondogbia to be kept in it. So I might delete the group again. We'll just delete the group and we'll give these guys their own group and their own mask. So we'll start with Antoine Griezmann, come in nice and close, go back to Memphis Depay, like so. And then as you can see, that looks much better than it previously did. I'm gonna move Kondogbia down just that little bit more so we can have some spacing between our three images. And we'll move these two groups and just hold them together so we can't see the underneath layer. Using our foot shadow brush, which you can find the link to that video in the top right corner if you haven't already seen it. What we'll do is we'll turn our flow back up to 100%. For Memphis Depay as well, just because it gets rid of that kind of outline that we had going on there. Close these two layers and their groups. We're going to make a layer in between our two group layers using our normal soft round brush, not the one that we flattened. We'll put our flow on around 15%. What we're going to do is just going to put some shadow just in between the layer here, like so, just so we have some spacing in between Griezmann and Depay. Then what we'll do is I'm going to group our Kondogbia layer together, and we'll repeat that same process between Kondogbia and Griezmann, like so, just putting a little bit of shadow in between the players, and we can see the difference that makes already. What I might do is I might move Griezmann over the slightest to the left, and Depay just that little bit over to the right. So what I've gone and done here is just dragged and dropped some textures in. So just putting some simple light around the top and some shadow around the bottom and some sides. And then I've put a noise layer on the top, put that to soft light, and put our opacity all the way down to around 30% just for that, which is, as you can see, we'll show you the difference here that it makes. Just makes our graphic pop that little bit more than it previously was. So we'll lock those layers so we can continue to work on what we have. And what I'm going to do is come back into our shadow layer. I'm going to put some more shadow around the base of the feet, just because it's not strong enough in my opinion from around where it's going. Just for the feet, it doesn't look the best. And as we can see, the difference that that makes already with that shadowing that we've got there. And then I'll come to color lookups. And then what I'm going to do is put out 11.3 on this, but I can't share this. If you want to use this in your graphics, what you need to do is go to Ethan J Design and purchase these from his website. For my next few steps, what I'm going to do is drag and drop an image of the Atletico Stadium into the background. So we'll resize this to make sure it fits appropriately, like so. I don't really care about the low quality as it's going to be overlaid. We'll put our black and white adjustment layer onto it, and we'll put our opacity of the background around 40%, like so. Keeping our flow on 20%, what we'll do is we'll make sure it doesn't show too much in the bottom, and we'll just play around it with this as we see fit, like so. We might just increase the opacity just that little bit more so it stands out from our background, and we'll continue to play around with that, like so. I'm going to drag and drop a grunge texture into our graphic. We've set this to screen, so what I'm going to do, just to get a bit more of this grunge effect, I'm going to turn the opacity back up to around 60% and keeping that opacity effect on screen, and we'll just move this over slightly. As we can see, it just gives a bit more kind of emphasis to our background. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to our Griezmann layer, and I'm going to put a little bit of shadow behind our graphic, just so he's popping out from our background that little bit more. As we can see, the difference that that makes already makes it look 100% better. And we'll do the same for Depay. So just a little bit of shadow behind, so it's standing out from our background, like so. And we'll put a bit around his head too. And then there we go, we can see the difference that that makes already. I'm going to continue to move Kondogbia across just that little bit more, just because I'm going to have some text coming across this way. We'll move into Memphis Depay, and what I'm going to do is create two layers, put them on an overlay. We'll come to our flow, we'll put that up, and then we'll put our opacity to around 35%, like so, and we'll zoom in. What we'll do for that is we'll make sure our opacity is just that little bit lower, and we'll go over already the light areas on the face, like so. And what I might do is actually I might come into our Memphis Depay graphic, and we'll turn that sharpening probably up to around 94%. We'll move back into our Depay layer, like so, playing around with those kind of light areas that we've already got going on. And we'll switch over to our shadows now. So for this, we'll just go over the dark areas on the face and on his hands and on his arms, making sure we're doing the entire of the composition. And we'll do the same for Griezmann. And again, I'm going to come into our graphic. I'm going to turn that sharpening probably up to around 100%, as I want it to be very strong. Come to overlay. Then what I'll do is I'll put our opacity back up to around 20%, and I'll draw over the light areas, like so. Light area is pretty much the entire face, but what we can do is we can fix that up with shadows just so it's standing out, like so. Play around with these shadows, turn that opacity down just that little bit more, like so. And we can see the difference that that color correction makes. Looks a lot better. And I won't repeat that same process for Kondogbia, just since it's a little bit different with a smaller image, and it just doesn't really look as nice in my opinion. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to move this Kondogbia back across into our graphic, like so. Then I'm going to come to the very bottom. What I'm going to do with the font called Museo Sans, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on white so it stands out from our background. I'm going to type in match day, then we'll put in our blank. Then I'm going to get the game details up for Atletico Madrid. It actually is away from home, but we'll still use the same background. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out and zoom out, come to our rectangular marquee tool and middle it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this to around 2 point. Make sure our paragraph is set to the middle. Middle that again. to our outer glow and we'll put some outer glow on it. What I'm going to do is to make this match the background, we'll put this to red. Then we're going to have our font on ultra bold, and then we'll just type in the stadium, which is, so we'll move it up, make it a little bit smaller, select our 2 layers, and we'll make sure this is middled, both layers, and there we go. That's how that part was made there. Then for my final few touches, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my background, I'm going to come to my color fill, I'm going to put some noise on the background, so we're going to have to convert this to a smart object, obviously, like so. We'll come up and I'm going to press Control Shift Alt E, come to camera raw filter. Then what I'm going to do is put our clarity around 20%. I'm going to put some contrast on it, a little bit of an exposure burst. We're going to come to our optics and I'm going to put our vignette to around -23, and then just a little bit of grain to finish it off. And there we go. That's how I made this match-day graphic. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe, like, comment what you want to see next. See ya, and thank you for watching.